This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, again, Erev Shabbos Rabbi as we prepare for Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh, Parshas HaChodesh, Chodesh Nissan, Habalinu L'Toiva. Marv Rabbi, we're going to look at a Gemara we've learned many times, but now we're going to learn it in a new way. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught. Ma'aseh b'nochri echad. There's a story about a guy. Shabal lefnei Shammai. He came before Shammai. Amar Loi, kama Torahs yesh lechem. How many Torahs you got? Amar Loi shtayim, Torah shebechasav, Torah sheba'al peh. Amar Loi shebechasav ani ma'mincha, sheshabeh ani ma'mincha. I believe in Torah shebechasav, I don't believe in Torah sheba'al peh. Because, if you have Torah shebechasav, I could still keep my phone on. But Torah sheba'al peh, now you're going to tell me the rabbi said you can't have your phone out and share it? No, I can't take that. So, I'm not interested. Convert me on condition that I learn Torah shebechasav. Go away! He yelled at him. Benazifa. He yelled at him and he left in anger. Balifnei Hillel. Hillel Gairei. Hillel said, no problem. First, let's convert you. Yoim Akama Amarle Aleph Beis Gimel Daled. L'machar Apichle. The next day he said the opposite. So what does opposite mean? I don't know. A Beis is an Aleph, a Daled is a Gimel. Amarle V'ha Esmal. Lo Amar li Hachi. You didn't tell me this yesterday. Amarle Lav Ale Didi Kasamchis. Didn't you rely on me? Da'al pen nami smech alai. Just like you relied on me yesterday, rely on me today. Yeah, rely on me today. That phone you're getting back Lag BaOmer, okay? So that is the story. That's the Gemara. The Gemara says that Hillel first told him Aleph Beis Gimel Daled, and the next day he flipped it around. So the guy said, but that's not what you told me yesterday. So says Hillel, just like you relied on me yesterday, rely on me nami for the Torah sheba'al peh. Rashi says, what does it mean, apichle? Kegoin tashrak. Yeah? And that phone you're getting back next Lag BaOmer. Yeah? So that's what Rashi says. Kegoin tashrak. For example, tashrak. Tashrak? That sounds vaguely familiar. It sounds like something we learned recently. The Hillel told him, Tav Shin Reish Kuf. So there's a pasuk in Mishlei. The pasuk in Mishlei says, Tachin Bakayitz Lachma. You prepare in the winter, in the summer, her bread. Agra v'akotzer ma'achala. She stores in the harvest her food. Says the Gra in Mishlei. Ve'elu ashnei dvar manal, Tachin and Agra, Torah sheba'al peh, and Torah shebechasav. Like Hillel, in the Gemara, how many Torahs do you have? L'machar apikle, meaning he taught him tashrak. Says the Gra, Aleph Beis is Torah shebechasav. Tav Shin Reish Kuf is Torah sheba'al peh. Therefore, when it talks about Tachin, and then Agra, Tashrak, and Aleph Beis, Tachin is the Taf first, Agra is the Aleph first, because you can't know the Torah shebechasav unless you first know the Torah sheba'al peh. This Gra is teaching us a Yesod Nifla. Remember we learned there's two systems of Aleph Beis. There's Aleph Beis forward, and there's Aleph Beis backward. Which one is Torah shebechasav and which one is Torah sheba'al peh? Aleph Beis forward is Torah shebechasav. Aleph Beis backward is Torah sheba'al peh. Tashrak is Torah sheba'al peh. Marv Rabbi, take a look at the Gra in the Biurei Agados on the Gemara and Brachos. Maybe this will sound somewhat familiar. Remember Betzalel. Moshe Rabbeinu told Betzalel first make the Kalim and then make the Mishkan. Betzalel says that's not the way we do it. The Gemara is Masha Moshe was Mahapichet. Why was Moshe Mahapichet? And why did Moshe tell him, you must be in the shadow of God? My rabbi say a shadow is backward. a tzel shows something in its backward image. Chumash hatzel mara kol behepach, says the Gra. That's the meaning of what the Hillel told the Ger. Just like you relied on me yesterday, rely on me for the Torah Shabbat Peh. What did Hillel tell the Ger, and what did the Ger say? So what Hillel told the Ger was Torah Shabbat Peh hu choisam hahipach. Torah Shabbat Peh is the backward of the Aleph Beis. It's Tashrak. So now this is something we want to investigate and hopefully get a new understanding of what our job is in the month of Nissan as opposed to other months of the year. Marv Rabbi Sai, what is the source that the Torah Shabbat Peh is the Aleph Beis backwards? Comes the Zohar HaKadosh, Parshas Mishpatim. Take a look at number 5. Umigu diyarsa Torah Shabbat Peh, the inheritance of the Torah Shabbat Peh, Asvan L'mafreya. It's the letters backwards. V'aldo ikri Tishrei. And for this it's called Tishrei. Huh? So somehow the Zohar is saying that the letters of the Aleph Beis backwards is Torah Shabbat Peh, and what month of the year is that? Tishrei. Interesting. Tishrei has to do with the Torah Shabbat Peh. Let's see a Tikkunei Zohar. Who wants to see a Tikkunei Zohar? I thought so. Says the Tikkunei Zohar. Now, let me ask you another question, Rabbi Sai. Is Torah Shebechsav and Torah Shabbat Peh Midas Hadin and Midas Harachamim? Which one is which? One would have thought that Torah Shebechsav is Midas Hadin and Torah Shabbat Peh is Midas Harachamim, right? That's what you would have thought. That's why you came here today, to learn that. No. 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 Just the opposite. Says Tikkunei Zohar, Misitra de Gvura alu kula mafreya. Listen carefully. Before we talk about Torah Shabbat and Torah Shabbat Peh, Tashrak, Aleph Beis Gimel Daled. Which one is Midas Hadin and which one is Midas Harachamim? Says the Zohar, from the tzad of Gvura, it's Tashrak. Tashrak is the Aleph Beis backward. Begin to eat Jeroy Smoila, that's the left side of Hashem. Tishrei, when you go left to right, that's backwards. That's Midas Hadin. That's the meaning of the word Bereshis, Ba Tishrei. We'll see what that means. Why? Because B'midas Hadin the world was created. And when the world was created, all the letters came backwards. But ultimately Hashem made it go forwards, and the world was created B'chesed, Olam Chesed Yibana. Listen very carefully. Otherwise there's no point in coming. Yeah? Listen carefully. There are two Mahalchim of the Aleph Beis. There's Aleph Beis Gimel Daled, and there's Tav Shin Reish Kuf. Tav Shin Reish Kuf is the left to the right, is Midas Hadin. Aleph Beis Gimel Daled is the right to the left, Midas HaChesed. Hashem wanted to create the world B'din. Look at the word Bereshis. Tav Shin Reish. But then Hashem switched it quickly. Aleph Beis. Bereshis is Tav Shin Reish, and through the Yud, which is Chachma, Aleph Beis. Okay? So Midas Hadin is the Aleph Beis backwards, Midas Harachamim is Aleph Beis forwards. Hashem wanted it to create it, but Midas Hadin, which is the system of Tashrak, but ultimately Olam Chesed Yibana. Let's see one more Zohar. I'm not an expert in the Zohar. This is all quoted in the Be'er Moshe in Parshas Bereshis. When Hashem went to create the world, look at number 7, it's the Zohar Chodesh on Rus, Ba'oisa Shah, Amdu Kala Oisa Estefanov, Zoisa Mez Bi Yirakash Baruch Zolamai. When Hashem created the world, all the letters vied. Create the world with me. All the letters stood backwards. The first letter to come was the letter Taf. My Rabbi, I'm going to tell you a chidush. It's such a chidush. First of all, I have to say I didn't know it. Not only did I not know it, I thought it was not correct. But it is correct. If I were to ask you, and I prepped you for this, and now that I told you the answer, you better get it right. Because there are no phones. The phones are all confiscated, right? And you're listening. So we have over here, which is Torah Shebechsav and which is Torah Shabbat Peh? Midas Hadin or Midas Harachamim? Torah Shebechsav is what? We said Torah Shebechsav is Din, and Torah Shabbat, because Torah Shebechsav is Aleph Beis Gimel Daled. Torah Shabbat Peh is Tav Shin Reish Kuf. Aleph Beis Gimel Dalet is Midas Harachamim. Tav Shin Reish Kuf is Midas Hadin. Torah Shebal Peh is Midas Hadin. Now you'll say, but wait a second. Torah Shebal Peh is Midas Hadin. We once said the exact opposite. You're right. We once said the exact opposite. And I can't answer how you reconcile it. There are many sources the other way around. I'll just ask straight off the bat. The Torah says Arba'im Yakenu, and the Rabbanon come and they say no, just 39. The Torah says Ayin Tachas Ayin, and the rabbis say just pay money. The Torah says Lo Yavoi Mayavi Mayavis B'Kal Hashem, and the Rabbanon say Mayavis could come. The Gemara says that in the Gemara it's called Omar Rachmana because Torah Shebal Peh is Rachamim, and now we're learning the exact opposite. We're learning Torah Shebal Peh is Din. Look in Tikunei Zar Yud Aleph, and maybe I have an answer. The Chad is Netilas Mechesed. When Torah comes from Chesed, is Karias Torah Shebechsav. This Yehivas Miyamina. This Mimina Yesh Das Lamai. When Torah comes from Gevura, it's called Torah Shebal Peh. That's why the masters of the Mishnah Torah Shebal Peh, they say Mipi HaGevura Nitna. It's Gevurais. They're called Gibayrim. The Gemara says, Kol Talmid Chacham she'enoi kasha kabarzel enoi Talmid Chacham. Yeah, what? It's okay, yeah, anything. Step on me. Enoi Talmid Chacham. Whoa. The Gemara even says, Kol Heid Surba Mirabanon derasach. If a young Talmid Chacham gets angry, he doesn't have a temper. The Torah is making him angry. You think the guy is going to be like, so Gemara says, you have to calm yourself down. But the Gemara says, Talmid Chacham is Gevurais, is Midas Hadin. So what are we going to do with this? Check this out. Okay, you ready? Fasten your seatbelts. Because this is in honor of Shabbos, Parsha Chodesh, and Chodesh Nissan. Tanya, look at number 9, Rabbi Lezer, Omer, Bit Tishrei Nivra Ha'olam, in Tishrei the world was created. Bit Tishrei Noldu Avos, in Tishrei the Avos were born. Bit Tishrei Mesu Avos, in Tishrei the Avos died. Bit Pesach Noilad Yitzchak, on Pesach Yitzchak was born. Rosh Hashanah Nifkada Sarah. Sarah was remembered in Rosh Hashanah Rachel, V'chana Rosh Hashanah Yatsi Yosem Beis Asurim, Rosh Hashanah Batla Avodim Avasim Mitzrayim. B'misa Nigalu. No, fill it in. B'tishrei Asidim Ligal. This is Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Lezer says the world was created in Tishrei, and in Tishrei we're going to be redeemed. That's the sheet of Rabbi Lezer. You got it? Rabbi Lezer's sheet is the world was created in Tishrei, and we will be redeemed in Tishrei. Rabbi Shua says, what are you talking about? Rabbi Shua Omer B'Nisan Nivra Ha'olam. The world was created in Nisan. B'Nisan Nigalu, or B'Nisan Asidon Nigal. Now, it's very interesting, Machlekes. You could argue when the Geula is going to happen, because it didn't happen yet. You could argue, B'Nisan Nigalu, B'Nisan Asidon Nigal, or B'Nisan Nigalu, B'Tishrei Asidon Nigal. You could argue who's going to win the lottery. You can't argue who won the lottery. Machloikis Tanoim, who won the lottery? So you have this billionaire sitting here with $1 million, you're arguing who won the lottery. How could you argue when the world was created? It's a Machloikis Metzias. That's the first question. Question number 2, there's a pasuk in Chumash that says when the world was created. Which pasuk? It's in Sefer Bereshis. Where? Parshas Bereshis. I didn't get too far. It's in the first parak. I'm not that far. Did you learn the first word? Bereshis, says about Aturim, is Oisi Ois Aleph B'Tishrei. The doc knew that one, right? He told me that one a couple. Bereshis Aleph B'Tishrei. So it says in the Chumash that Hashem created the world. So what's Rabbi Shua going to do with the Baal HaTurim? You say Rabbi Shua could argue on the Baal HaTurim. He's a Tana.
Nissan is Chodesh Aviv Aleph Beis.
And what's Tishrei?
Yeah, well, that we know.
It says about him, Bereshis Bara is Gematria B'Rosh Hashanah Nivra Ha'olam. Now, comes the Orach Chaim HaKadosh, and the Orach Chaim HaKadosh says, Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chayim. They're both correct. Because we know first Hashem thought to create the world, and then He did. So you could say, either in Nissan He thought, or in Tishrei it was Yatzel L'Payal, or vice versa. Or vice versa.
6 months from a show with the mice.
I know people it takes much longer than that. Yeah. So the Arachaim HaKadosh says one was b'machshav and one was b'payal, and both could be called bria, either mashal b'machshavtai or when it happened, and therefore both opinions are correct. That's what it means. Beis Reishis. It can be read Beis Reishis. There are two beginnings. There's Echa b'Nisan and Be'echa b'Tishrei. Now the Baal HaTurim is the Arachaim HaKadosh is mamish a pele she'en kamoyo. What? Because there's a Tosfos. Listen to this question. Tosfos in Masechta Rosh Hashanah has a question. Rabbi Lezer HaKalir in Tfilas Geshem, he says b'Tishrei nivra ha'olam, and Rabbi Lezer HaKalir on Tal, he says b'Nisan nivra ha'olam. So there are two answers. One is nobody's paying attention, so nobody would know that.
That's not the right answer.
That's not the right answer. That's Tosfos' kasher. Rabbi Lezer HaKalir by Tfilas Geshem says b'Tishrei nivra ha'olam, and Rabbi Lezer HaKalir by Nisan says b'Nisan nivra ha'olam. And for Tosfos, Oimer Rabbeinu Tam, says Rabbeinu Tam, the greatest of all the Rishonim. The Rosh says, Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chayim. Ikol ameima de betishrei Allah b'machshava levarais, v'loi nivra ad Nisan. He thought about creating it in Tishrei. He created it in Nisan. Wow. So they ask on Arachaim HaKadosh, what's Arachaim HaKadosh saying this pshat? It's come out word for word of Tosfos. But I would ask on the Arachaim HaKadosh a much bigger question. What's the Arachaim HaKadosh saying? Either he thought about it Tishrei and he created it in Nisan, or vice versa. What do you mean, or vice versa? Tosfos says it one way. He thought about creating it in Tishrei and he created it in Nisan. What do you mean we have two options? You don't have two options. Tosfos doesn't say there are two ways to deal the cards. Tosfos says, Machshava Tishrei, b'payal and Nisan. Let's go with Tosfos. By the way, everybody knows, but if you ever ask somebody, when the world was created, the Arizal says that Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chayim, and the Machshava was Tishrei and B'maisa was Nisan. For some reason people like to quote the Arizal. It's Rabbeinu Tam and Tosfos. Rabbeinu Tam and Tosfos says, Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim, Tishrei was planned, Nisan was created. You ready? If you're with me, you're going to hear something incredible now. Let's think for a moment. Because we know there's another thing that was planned one way and it was created another way. It was planned b'midas hadin and it was created b'midas harachamim. Says the Ramami Pano, they go hand in hand. The plan was to create it in Tishrei and to create it b'midas hadin. But it was created in Nisan, b'midas harach. It's not two different plans and two different changes. One plan was midas hadin. One plan was Tishrei. But b'payal it was Nisan and Rachamim. It's one thing. It was planned b'Tishrei b'midas hadin. It was executed in Nisan b'midas harachamim. Says Ramami Pano, look at number 15. Why when you clap al ched, Shamnu, bagadnu, gazalnu, dibarnu, doifi, right? Why do you do it in the Aleph Beis? Because the world was created with the Aleph Beis. And you messed up the Aleph Beis. So you need to repair it with the Aleph Beis. That's why it says the Ramami Pano, many people say Ashamnu forwards and backwards. Forwards for the way the world was created. Backwards for the way the world was planned to be created. Now listen to this. The Zohar says the letters vied before Hashem, and they made themselves backwards. Tishrei, Tafshin Reish. Tishrei, Rabbi Sai, is Tafshin Reish. Hashem wanted to create the world when? Bereish is bar like him, Minas Hadin, Be Echad B'Tishrei. Bereish stands for Be Echad B'Tishrei. They go hand in hand. He wanted to create Minas Hadin. He wanted to create it Aleph B'Tishrei. Like Rebbe Lezer. And b'machshava he created b'midas hadin. But he saw the world wouldn't last, and therefore he flipped it around, Aleph Beis. So listen carefully. He was going to create a Tishrei, Taf Shin Reish, and then Yud. Yud is Chachmas Hashem. He says it's not going to work. You put in Aleph Beis. What do you get if you get Taf Shin Reish? Throw in a Yud with the Aleph Beis. That's Bereshis. That's the word Bereshis. Says the Maskil David, the same way Hashem planned to create it, Tishrei, Taf Shin Reish Kuf, but He created Aleph Beis Gimel Dalid. That goes hand in hand with what Hashem wanted to create the world, the Midas Hadin, and He was Mashtatef Midas Harachamim. So now you can hear an incredible thing. Raise your hand, raise both hands if you want to hear an amazing thing. Stand up on your chairs if you want to hear an amazing thing. Okay? Hashem wanted to create the world in Tishrei. What are the letters Tishrei? Taf, Shin, Reish. Backward is Midas Hadin. Backward is Tarsha Bal Peh. But Hashem created it in what month? Nissan. Chodesh Aviv, Aleph Beis. He created it forward. That's why Nissan is called Chodesh Aviv. Who says this? This is from the great work Smichas Chachamim from Naftali Katz. It's a great work of Kabbalah, but it's also not Kabbalah, and people don't know it's Kabbalah, so they learn it. So look at number 17. Ukinegdam der Dalid Rosh Hashanim. Nissan is the world of Atzilos, where all the miracles happen. That is Aleph Beis. And therefore this Chodesh is called Chodesh HaAviv. It's Kisidron. Tishrei, look further, is Olam Asiyah. Tishrei, listen carefully. Nissan is Yud Kei Vav Kei. Tishrei is Aleph Daled Nun Yud, which is a Tarsha Bal Peh, and therefore it's backward. It's backward. Now, by the way, you know who else says this? Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Barditchev. Rabbi Levi Yitzchak says in number 18, the Gemara says, one man the Amr says B'Nisan Nivra Olam, and one man the Amr says B'Tishrei Nivra Olam. Hashem is always Mashpia Shafa. Sometimes it's what is called Ar Yashar, and sometimes it's Ar Chayzar. The month of Nisan is Ar Yashar. Nisan, he says, is Chodesh HaAviv, Aleph Beis Keseder. But Tishrei is backward, it's called Ar Chayzar. Okay, very interesting. By the way, if you look in the Sefer Binyan David, number 19, whether the world was created, Aleph Beis Gimel Dalet or Taf Shin Reish Kuf, is Tali if B'Tishrei Nivra Olam, and Taf is more Chashav, or B'Nisan Nivra Olam, Chodesh HaAlev, and Aleph is more Chashav. Ultimately, Marav Rabbi Tishrei, the world wanted to be created b'midas hadin, which is Tarsha Bal Peh. It was created b'midas harachamim, which is Tarsha B'chsav. Now, what happens when you combine Tarsha B'chsav and Tarsha Bal Peh? Did anybody ever hear? The Gemara says there's a very interesting formula. Because we know forward is Tarsha B'chsav, backward is Tarsha Bal Peh. Anybody ever hear of Atbash? What in the world is Atbash? Imagine somebody writes some kind of gibberish. You say, what is that? A is Z, and B is Y, and C is very, very deep. Very deep. What in the world are you doing? What's the system of Atbash? Rabbi Yeshua Heller, Talmud of the Reb Chaim Volozhner, think of Talmidei Hagra. He says that when the Gra says the Torah is Choisam HaMeshapech, which means it was going to be given Tav Shin Reish Kuf, but it was given Aleph Beis Gimel Daled. It wanted to be created Midas Hadin. It was created Midas Rachamim. The combination of the two, combination of Aleph forwards and Aleph Beis backward, that's Atbash. That's the system of Atbash. It's a combination of Tarsha B'chsav and Tarsha Bal Peh. It's the tziruf of the two. That's where the formula comes from. Look at number 20. I found yesterday in one of the editions of Yeshurun, in edition Chaf Dalid, a letter from Rabbi Yeshua Heller. He says, I want to tell you that this concept of Choisam HaMeshapech comes from a very reliable source. He says on the third line, Aval hagra yechoinen al tapuchais hasedem yimin l'smal. The gra is referring to the reversal of the signet ring. Kishenechkach hachois ma'alef beis gimel. When the choisam is engraved, Aleph Beis Gimel, Yeh nirsham b'choimer hanechdam Gimel Beis Aleph. On the signet ring, it's going to be the opposite. And when on the signet ring it says Aleph Beis Gimel, then it's going to print out Tav Shin Reish. Torah Shebechsav is God's version. Torah Shebal Peh is our version. Therefore, the Torah which is sourced in the Chaf Beis Oisios of the Aleph Beis, like it says, Nagila v'nismacha bach in the Chaf Beis Oisios. Torah Shebechsav is Aleph to Tav. Torah Shebal Peh is the opposite. This is the oimik of what Hillel told the Ger. Okay. When you're mechaber Torah Shebechsav with the Torah Shebal Peh, the choisam with the nechtam, the noisein with the makabel, Aleph Beis with tashrak, what do you have? Atbash! Isn't that incredible? I'm sure your whole life you heard there's something called Atbash and never understood what's the logic of the formula of Atbash. The logic, says Rabbi Shua Heller, is that it's a combination of Torah Shebechsav and Torah Shebal Peh. Wow, what an amazing thing. Now, I'll tell you the truth. I spent many hours yesterday working on this, and my main problem with it, my main question on it is, I always understood Torah Shebal Peh as Midas Harachamim and Torah Shebechsav as Midas Hadin. We gave a few examples. Ayin Tachas Ayin. We gave an example of Arbam Yakenu. The Gra I know says the Rachmana is a Torah Shebal Peh. The Gra says in Shas it doesn't say Diber Rav Huna, Amar Rav Huna, because Gemara Torah Shebal Peh is Rachamim. And here we're saying the exact opposite. And amazingly, I found the Gra himself says that Torah Shebechsav is Midas Hadin, is Midas Harachamim, and Torah Shebal Peh is Midas Hadin. Where do we say this? Where do we say this? Many years ago, we gave a shiur, and there's a Gra that's quoted in something called Kovetz Sefunais, Rav Shmuel Loria. You know, Hashem has two names, Yud Kei Vav Kei and Aleph Dal Nun Yud. Yud Kei Vav Kei is what? Midas? Rachamim. Aleph Dal Nun Yud. We said recently it's Midas Hadin. Tishrei is Aleph Dal Nun Yud. Din. Nissan is Yud Kei Vav Kei. By the way, the permutation of Yud Kei Vav Kei for Nissan is Yismachu Hashamayim B'Sagel Haaretz. Says the Gra, Ayam V'no, you never heard such an incredible thing in your life. You know why Yud Kei Vav Kei is 26? How many books in the Tanakh? 24. Plus the two Luchos. Torah Shebechsav, the Gra says, is 26. 24 books and the two Luchos. That's Yud Kei Vav Kei. Rachamim! Torah Shebechsav Rachamim! Says the Gra, Ayam V'noira. How many Masechtas are there? 65 Masechtas Keneged Aleph Daled Nun Yud. Midas Hadin. The Gemara is Midas Hadin. But in many places we say a Goin. A Goin, not a Gun. A Goin is Gematria 60 because he knows the 60 Masechtas. And like the Medrash says, Shishim Hema Malachais, Shishim Masechtas. Now we have a tradition, there's 63 Masechtas. And the Smag says the simon is Libcha Yehei Gas Bahem. However, Nun Yud of Aleph Dal Nun Yud is a 60 Masechtas of Halacha. And then there are 5 Masechtas on Drabanans. Demai, Ervin, Megillah, Idios, and Yadayim. Marv Rabbi incredible. So here we have it, that there is a concept that Midas, that the Torah HaKadosh, Torah Shebechsav is Midas Harachamim, Yud Kei Vav Kei, and Torah Shebal Peh is Midas Hadin, the 65 Masechtos, Aleph Dal Nun Yud. Do you remember the tour? Remember the tour said that the reason why we say Tikanta Shabbos or Sisa Kamrei Seah is because since in the Chus of Shabbos will be Nigal, when the Aleph base goes backwards, we're going to be nigal. The remez is esher kol lahem ba'akabsein. Remember we learned that last week? Tikanta Shabbos. Well, in the Sefer Drashos Beis Yishai, he says beautifully, when the Aleph Beis goes backwards, we're going to be nigal. The Aleph Beis backwards is Tar Shabbat Peh. That's why Chazal say, B'schus HaMishnayis HaGolios Miskansos. In the schus of Tar Shabbat Peh will be redeemed, because Tar Shabbat Peh is the Aleph Beis backward. And now I'm going to share with you an amazing thing, and it's very hard to explain. Marv Rabbi, if you're with me, this is Mamish Oyem V'Noira. I'm up to number 23. I once heard from Rav Warman, Zechazag Lavracha, and he said it over to Rav Gedalia Shur. Rav Gedalia Shur says he thinks he heard it from the Admir of Razin, and in the Drashas of the Aruch HaShulchan, he says the same thing. What's the machloikis, whether b'Nisan nigalu, b'Nisan asin legal, or b'Tishrei asin legal?
Couple of months.
What's the machloikis? What's the nafkamina? Mavra Boisai, you know what the nafkamina is? Whether we deemed in Tishrei or we deemed in Nissan. There's another machlokes, Rebbe Lezer and Rebbe Shua. Rebbe Shua says, Rebbe Lezer says, Ein Yisrael nigalim ela b'tshuva. Rebbe Shua says, no, even if we don't do tshuva, the Kates will come and Hashem will get us out. Rebbe Lezer, who says that will be redeemed in Tishrei, he's going l'shita say that will only be redeemed with tshuva. Tishrei is a month of tshuva. Therefore, Rebbe Lezer says we'll be redeemed in Tishrei because we'll need to do tshuva before we're redeemed. Rebbe Shua holds we won't need to do tshuva. That's because he holds we're redeemed in Nissan. Nissan Klal Yisrael never did any tshuva. When Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim, we didn't do anything good. We were Eiroim, the area, we were Memtesh Shari Tuma. Rebbe Shua says, the Yisrael, bein kach, Hashem's getting us out of the mess. We don't have to do tshuva. So Rabbi Shua says that will be in the month of Nissan, the month where Hashem just takes us out, whether we deserve it or not. Rebbe Lezer is of the opinion, Ein Yisrael Negalim Ela b'tshuva. Tshuva is the month of Tishrei. Therefore, we'll be redeemed in Tishrei, the month of tshuva.
So how the one is the year? Nissan be tshuva be ba'av.
Ain't no tshuva in Nissan. Says, look at number 23, V'ulai bezehu depligi Rav Lezer Rabbi Shua. Rav Lezer's really ein b'nei son nigalin ela b'tshuva. And according to this, that he holds, asidin ligal b'tishrei. Because Tishrei is the month of tshuva. That's the month we were in Eskapra b'chet ha'egal. But Rabbi Shua holds that Klal Yisrael nigal b'loy tshuva. Because of the galus, because the time will end. Okay, very interesting. Can I ask you a question? Very simple question. Tishrei is the month of Tar Shabbat or Tar Shabbat Peh? Tishrei is the month of Tar Shabbat or Tar Shabbat Peh? Tishrei is the month of Tar Shabbat or Tar Shabbat Peh? I'm going to keep on asking until you can say the right one. Shabbat Peh. It's the Aleph Beis backward. It's Aleph Beis backward. It's din or rachamim. It's din. Tishrei you do tshuva. Nisan you don't do tshuva. You know it's very interesting. Let me tell you Yushalmi. Yushalmi says they asked Chachma what should be with someone who sinned. The Yushalmi said they should die. They asked the Torah what should be with someone that sinned. Torah said he should bring a carbon. They asked the Nevi'im what should be with someone who sinned. The Nevi'im said they should die. They asked HaKadosh Baruch Hu what should be with someone who sinned. Hashem said, do tshuva. What do we see from here? Tshuva is not an eitzah of the Torah. It's not an eitzah of the Nevi'im. It's not an eitzah of Chachma. Al pi the Torah shebechsav, you can't do tshuva. You're stuck. Who says to do tshuva? Only Hashem Himself. Torah Shabbat Peh. Tishrei is the month of Tashrak. Torah Shabbat Peh. Tishrei is the month of tshuva. Nisan is the month of Torah Shabbat Chsav. Ain't no tshuva in Nisan. You know why Tishrei you could do tshuva? It's Tar Shabbat Peh. Tar Shabbat Peh you could do tshuva. Tar B'Shabbat Sav you can't do tshuva. So can I ask you one simple question then? So why is Tishrei Midas Hadin and Nissan is Midas Harachamim? In Tishrei you could do tshuva. In Tar Shabbat Sav you can't do tshuva.
But you don't have to do tshuva. You have to do bechina.
It must be a chiddush nifla that in the month of Tishrei, which is Tar Shabbat Peh, so now there's such a powerful Midas Hadin that Midas Hadin allows for tshuva. But that's Tar Shabbat Peh. Tar Shabbat Sav, you're stuck. You can't do tshuva. But then, if you're so stuck, there's a system that overrides the whole thing. You know what the overriding the whole thing is? Isarusa de la'ela, where the Rebbe Shem says, you can't, there's nothing you can do. So I'm just going to come in and take care of the mess. It's Isarusa de la'ela. It comes out something very interesting. In the month of Din, there's a way out. In the month of Tishrei, which is Tar Shabbat Peh, there's a way out. There's a way of tshuva. In the month of Tar Shabbat Sav, there's no way out. So in a way, you're stuck. So because you're stuck, it's so barachamim. Comes out something very interesting. The month of Tishrei is Tar Shabbat Peh. It allows for tshuva, and it's the month of Din. And Tishrei is the month of Tar Shabbat Sav. So why is it rachamim? It's rachamim because since there's no way out, there's something called the sarusa de la'ela, where the Rebbe Shem says, I'll get you out of here even if you don't do anything. That's why in the month of Tishrei, you can only ask for rain. You know what rain is? Says Rabbi Glatstein. Rain is precipitation and moisture down here that rises up, forms cloud, and then falls down. That's called the sarusa de lasata. You can ask for rain. You can ask Hashem, Pischi li, I'll take the first step and then you help me out. Rain. You could daven for rain. Rain it starts down here and it comes and it finishes up on top. In Nissan we do much better. We say, God, we're not doing anything. Nothing. Give us tal. Tal is straight from Shamayim. It's Arusa del Eila. The month of Nissan, the Svarim say is Chodesh Yeshuas Makifais, where we have to borrow everything from God and we're on loan, it's on credit. Hashem gives us freebies in Nissan. You know why it's called Pesach? Because we jump over the need to take the first step. It's a Sarusa del Eila. It's Torah Shabbat Sav. Torah Shabbat Sav doesn't allow tshuva, so what are we going to do then? We need Rachamim Merubim. Can I give you a mashal? I'll give you a mashal. When in davening do we say Rachamim Rabim? I got Nishman Esser. Where in Nishman Esser? Which matana of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Rachamim Rabim? No? Simshalayim. Maybe on Purim. But on every other day. When is it Rachamim Rabim? Blank, blank, Rachamim Rabim. Blank, blank, Berachamim Rabim. Mechaye Mesim Berachamim Rabim. What bracha is the second bracha of Shemona Esrei? What bracha is the second bracha of Shemona Esrei? Gevuros, Yitzchak, Din. You ever think about it? In the bracha of Din, you say Rachamim. The only time in davening that you say Rachamim Rabim is Yitzchak's bracha of Gevuros. Interesting. Yitzchak's bracha of Gevuros. You're mentioning Rachamim Rabim. The Gemara says at the end of days, Avram's not going to help us. He can't get any Rachamim for us. Yaakov can. Only Yitzchak Midas Hadin, he could get us out of the biggest jam. Sometimes when there's nowhere to go, that's where Midas Hadin is like the strongest Rachamim, is Rachamim Rabim. Chodesh Nissan is Tar Shabbat Sav. There's no tshuva. No tshuva. Tchias HaMesim. Tchias HaMesim is Rachamim Rabim. It's the Sarusa de La'ela. Marv Rabbi is very interesting. the Arizal points out, in the Tefillah of Geshem and Tefillah of Tal, they're exact opposite. In the month of Tishrei, which is backward Midas Hadin, the Tefillah of Geshem is Aleph Beis Gimel Daled. Check out the Piyut. And in the month of Nissan, which is Tefillah Tal, the Piyut is Tavshin Tashrak. The exact opposite of what you would have thought. Because the month of Nissan, it's all backward. Month of Nissan, almost. Since Rebbeinu Shalom is dealing with us, Aleph Beis Gimel Daled, in order for us to mirror that, we have to do the Chosem HaMesapech. Normally Hashem gives us Chosem HaMesapech. We, on Nissan, we go to Him, Tashrak. And Chodesh Tishrei, where it's Tashrak, we have to daven the Aleph Beis Gimel Daled. Rabbi Glatstein, hopefully, it's a very, very deep and profound subject, so we're just getting the words and just getting the ideas, and hopefully, Be'ez Hashem should show us, Mitarasai Neflois, Agon Shabbos, Agon Chodesh.
Can I have my phone, please?
Yeah, sure.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.